The rhythmic clinking of ceramic coffee cups in a bustling Lagos cafe was the unlikely soundtrack to the beginning of Tunda and Amina's story. Tunda, a high-flying investment banker from the rolling hills of Osun State, was a man of structured ledgers and Yoruba proverbs. Amina, a brilliant pediatric resident from the ancient city of Kano, moved with the quiet grace of the Sahel and the clinical precision of a surgeon. They were a study in Nigerian contrasts. He was a Christian who thrived on the exuberant energy of Awam parties. She was a devout Muslim who found peace in the rhythmic cadence of her daily prayers. The collision of worlds. Their love wasn't a slow burn, it was an instant recognition. However, as their relationship deepened, the Lagos bubble began to thin. The reality of their heritage loomed like the Zuma rock. When Tunda finally took Amina to meet his parents in Osogbo, the silence was heavy. His mother, a deaconess, spoke of the importance of spiritual alignment. When Amina traveled north to Kano to speak with her father, a respected traditional title holder, the response was a firm, heartbreaking no. Oil and water can be in the same bottle, Amina's uncle had said, but they will never truly become one. The stand. Most couples would have buckled under the weight of such profound cultural and religious expectations. But Tunda and Amina were built differently. They refused to elope or rebel in a way that would sever family ties. Instead, they chose the harder path, persistent diplomacy. The dialogue. For 2 years, they acted as bridges. Tunda studied the customs of the North. Amina shared the richness of her medical ethics with Tunda's family. The mediation. They involved progressive religious leaders, an imam in Kano and a pastor in Lagos, who were willing to look past dogma to see the character of the individuals. The concession. After dozens of meetings, several family summits, and a fair amount of tears, the elders reluctantly gave their blessing. It wasn't a celebration of victory, but a quiet, skeptical truce. A decade of grace. Fast forward 15 years, and the skeptics have long been silenced. Tunda is now a managing director at a top-tier firm, and Amina has founded a leading maternal health clinic. They live in a home where the walls are adorned with both Adir fabrics from the south and intricate calligraphy from the north. They have 2 children, Zaid and Tiwa, who navigate their dual heritage with effortless pride. The children speak both Yoruba and Hausa, a living testament to a bridge that many said could never be built. The secret to their success. What the families didn't realize back then was that Tunda and Amina didn't love each other despite their differences. They loved each other because of the perspective those differences provided. Aspect, the harmony. Spirituality, a shared foundation of charity, integrity, and faith in a higher power. Culture, a vibrant household where jollof rice is made 2 ways and every holiday is a double celebration. Wealth, a combined empire built on the banker's strategy and the doctor's empathy. Today, when the families gather for the holidays, now laughing together over tea and pounded yam, it is clear that Tunda and Amina didn't just start a marriage, they started a legacy of unity that reshaped their entire family tree. The first meeting between the families of Tunda and Amina was not a simple dinner, it was a diplomatic summit held on neutral ground, a quiet, upscale hotel in Abuja, halfway between the spirited streets of Osun and the dignified ancient walls of Kano. The great meeting. A study in silence and gold. The air in the private suite was thick with the scent of expensive oud and starched lace. Tunda's family arrived first, a sea of vibrant Aso-oak and loud, rhythmic greetings. His mother, the deaconess, sat with her Bible tucked into her purse, her posture as straight as a mahogany tree. Minutes later, Amina's family entered. The men wore immaculate white bobbin regas, their movements slow and deliberate. Her father, the Alhaji, walked with a silver-tipped cane that clicked rhythmically against the marble floor. For the first 30 minutes, the silence was deafening. They sat on opposite sides of the long mahogany table, 2 different Nigerias staring at each other. The tension only broke when Tunda stood up, took Amina's hand, and spoke not to his own parents, but to hers, in the little Hausa he had painstakingly learned. "Ina son, Yarku," he said softly. "I love your daughter." Amina followed, kneeling before Tunda's mother in the traditional Yoruba fashion, a gesture of profound respect that transcended her own upbringing. It was this dual display of cultural surrender that softened the room. The deaconess reached out to touch Amina's shoulder, and the Alhaji finally set his cane aside. They realized then that they weren't losing a child to a stranger, they were gaining a bridge to a world they had previously feared. Why religion should not be a barrier. While faith is a deeply personal and foundational aspect of life, many argue that it should serve as a compass for character rather than a fence for isolation. Universal values. At their core, most religions preach the same golden rule: love, honesty, and compassion. When two people share these ethical pillars, the specific rituals they follow become different paths to the same mountain peak. The strength of diversity. Inter-religious marriages often produce children who are more empathetic, culturally intelligent, and adaptable. They learn from birth that different does not mean wrong. Love is a divine attribute. If God is defined as love, then a union based on genuine, selfless devotion can be seen as an expression of faith rather than a violation of it. Intellectual growth. Being with someone of a different faith forces an individual to deeply examine their own beliefs, leading to a more mature and reasoned spirituality rather than one based simply on habit. Perspective. In a globalized world, the ability to find common ground in the face of differing dogmas is perhaps the ultimate test of a person's maturity and the depth of their love. The wedding was a spectacular display of Nigerian heritage. The fusion of traditions. The attire. Amina in a stunning lace wrapper and hijab with intricate henna, lal patterns on her hands, while Tunda complements her in a regal aso ogbada in matching colors. The rites. A beautiful balance between the nikah, the solemn Muslim contract, and the Yoruba engagement idana, where Tunda's family would have to present the traditional proposal letter and gifts to Amina's elders. The soundscape. The talking drums of the south competing playfully with the soulful kakaki trumpets of the north. The feast. A menu that features both the spicy osogbo pounded yam and the savory kano tuwo shinkafa, symbolizing the literal blending of their lives. The symbolic moment. The most powerful part of such a ceremony is often when the two fathers, who once stood on opposite sides of a cultural divide, embrace or share a meal. It signals to the world that love hasn't just joined two people, but has expanded the boundaries of two entire families. In a scene of a quiet Sunday afternoon in Tunda and Amina's home. Here are a few elements you could notice, among them especially the children. The language of the home. A moment where one child asks for something in Hausa and the other responds in Yoruba, showing how naturally they bridge the gap that once terrified their grandparents. The grandparent transformation. Perhaps a scene where the once stern Alhaji and the deaconess are sitting together on the same sofa, doting on their grandchildren, proving that love and grandbabies can melt even the toughest cultural barriers. The lesson on faith. Tunda and Amina explaining to their children that while their prayers may look different, the heart they offer them to is the same. 15 years later, the sun was setting over their sprawling Ikoyi residence, casting a golden hue over a table that sat 16. This wasn't just a dinner, it was a living monument to a bridge once thought impossible to build. At the head of the table sat Tunda, his hair slightly peppered with gray but his eyes as sharp as the day he first saw Amina. Opposite him sat Amina, now a chief medical director, her presence still radiating the calm, Sahelian grace that had anchored their home for over a decade. The grandparents' corner. The most striking sight, however, was the two elders. The Alhaji from Kano and the deaconess from Osogbo were no longer sitting on opposite sides of a divide. They were huddled together over a bowl of masa and jibegiri soup, arguing playfully, not about religion, but about which grandchild, Zaid or Tiwa, inherited their respective nose shapes. You see, Alhaji, the deaconess laughed, adjusted her head tie. Zaid has the Osogbo stubbornness, but he has your quiet way of observing the room. The Alhaji nodded, a slow smile spreading across his face. And Tiwa, she speaks Hausa with a southern lilt that makes my heart light. She is the best of us all. A lesson in legacy. As the youngest, Tiwa moved to clear a plate, she paused. Daddy, Grandma says you had to fight to get married. Why? Tunda looked at Amina, and then at the table filled with people from two different worlds who now shared a single heartbeat. We didn't fight against our families, Tiwa, Tunda said gently. We fought for them. We wanted them to see that love isn't a boundary, it's a horizon. Your mother and I knew that if we stayed patient, our different worlds wouldn't collide, they would simply expand. Amina squeezed his hand under the table. Religion and culture are like different languages, my darlings. Some people think they mean different things, but when you look closely, they are all just different ways to say peace, honor, and family. The wealth of a union. The Wealth in the room wasn't just in the successful bank accounts or the thriving clinic. It was in the ease with which the Yoruba and Hausa languages mingled with the steam of the food. It was in the fact that the deaconess had learned to make suya spice from scratch, and the Alhaji now looked forward to the high-energy praise songs of the South. As the night ended with a joint prayer, one in Arabic, one in English, both seeking the same protection, it was clear that Tunda and Amina hadn't just changed their own lives. They had healed a lineage. This story shows that when love is rooted in respect and patience, it doesn't just survive, it transforms everything around it. To keep a home peaceful when two different worlds collide, Tunda and Amina had to move beyond mere tolerance and embrace active integration. They developed a set of family pillars that governed their household, ensuring that neither culture felt like a guest in the other's home. Here are the 7 family rules that turned their house into a sanctuary. 1. The dual language policy. No language is superior in this house. We speak English for clarity, Yoruba for the soul's expression, and Hausa for the heart's wisdom. The children must be able to greet their grandmother in Osogbo and their grandfather in Kano with equal fluency and respect. 2. The kitchen is a map of Nigeria. The dinner table is neutral ground. We do not choose between jollof styles, we celebrate both. A week that features Amala and Udu must also feature Mientaush and Tuwo. Our palates should be as diverse as our DNA. 3. Faith is a bridge, not a wall. We honor the Creator through different traditions but with the same intention. We observe the beauty of the hijab and the peace of the rosary. We celebrate Eid with the same fervor as Christmas. Religion in this house is used to build character, integrity, kindness, and honesty, not to judge neighbors. 4. Respect Oluwa Guruma is non-negotiable. Whether it is the Yoruba prostration or the Northern Sanu, respect for elders and for one another is the foundation. We don't just tolerate our in-laws, we study their customs so we can honor them correctly. 5. Conflict stays within the walls. When cultural misunderstandings happen, and they will, we resolve them privately. We never allow outside family members to use our differences as a weapon against our union. We are a united front. 6. Education over assumption. If we don't understand a tradition, we ask questions instead of making judgments. We assume the best of each other's heritage. Every weird custom is just a story we haven't learned yet. 7. Love is the final arbiter. If a rule or a tradition causes pain or division, the tradition bows to love. We are not just preserving the past, we are building a new, better future for our children. The result? These rules transformed their home from a place of compromise into a place of composition, where 2 different melodies created a brand new song. Here is the letter Tunda and Amina wrote to a young couple that was finding it difficult to convince their parents to allow them marry despite the religious, cultural indifference in traditions. They heard their story and sought for their advice. Remembering their lessons and standing where they once stood, they wrote a letter to the brave hearts. From the desk of Tunda and Drive, Amina, to the couple currently sitting in the silence of a no from their parents. We know that silence. We know the weight of the traditional beads and the prayer mats being used as shields against your union. We know the fear that choosing love means losing home. If we could reach across the years and hold your hands, here is what we would tell you. 1. Patience is a form of respect. Do not mistake no for never. Often, our parents' refusal isn't born of hate, but of a fear of the unknown. They are trying to protect you from a struggle they don't understand. Give them time to see that your love isn't a rebellion, it's a revelation. 2. Become each other's cultural ambassadors. Tunda didn't just love me, he loved my people. Amina didn't just love me, she honored my ancestors. You must learn your partner's language, their food, and their customs. When your in-laws see you embracing their heritage, their defenses will naturally melt. You are not taking their child away, you are joining their world. 3. Character is the loudest argument. You cannot argue your way into a blessing. You must live your way into it. Be so excellent in your careers, so disciplined in your faith, and so kind in your speech that your families cannot find a single flaw in your personhood, only in your labels. Eventually, the labels will fade, and they will only see the person. 4. Build your own middle ground. While you wait for your families to come around, build your own culture. Don't let your differences be things you tolerate. Make them things you celebrate. If you aren't united in your vision, the pressure from outside will crack the foundation. 5. Involve the wise. Find the elders and leaders who see the future, not just the past. Every community has them. Let them speak for you when your own voices are too emotional to be heard. Our final word. Nigeria is a massive, beautiful tapestry. It is held together by people like you, those brave enough to stitch two different threads into one cloth. It won't be easy, but we promise you, 15 years from now, when you see your parents laughing together over a meal they once refused to share, every tear you cry today will feel like a small price to pay. Hold on to each other. The bridge is worth the build. With love and solidarity, Chunda and Amina.